The hopes of any Formula 1 team is that, with new additions to the car, they move forward and are closer to the top step than they were prior to those upgrades. Just look at McLaren, who for 2 years in a row now seem to have diagnosed a key area to improve in the preseason and then bring upgrades to great effect at the earliest opportunity. Clearly, last year needed to be a far greater leap, and while the Miami race win could be chalked up to a fair amount of fortune, the fact that both McLarens were so quick and consistent on the same weekend that the car was overhauled in 10 key areas cannot be ignored. So then, with the first European round of the calendar up next, who can be the team to apply the next substantial upgrade? The early European rounds of the season often serve as a hotbed for innovative changes and underwhelming additions, due to the logistical ease and placement of the races on the calendar. So just who will be the big winners and losers in Imola? Well, it seems that two are striving to take a McLaren-esque leap, with the aim to overtake McLaren and establish themselves as a main challenger to Red Bull. But as we've seen in the past, hoping for upgrades to be impactful is one thing, and applying them effectively is a different thing entirely. Want to know who is aiming to leap up the grid next week? It's going to be a real tussle, and given we have already seen 3 teams win a race this season, could we see a 4th join the party unexpectedly? And stick around, because the team principals are at it again and lines are being drawn in the sand. So, the premonitions from the top of Red Bull have so far proven to be correct. At the beginning of the year, the word coming out of Red Bull was along the lines of, "We're confident that we'll still be more than competitive, but we're certainly never going to be as dominant as we were last year." Winning 4 out of the 6 races so far is definitely more than competitive. However, 2 other drivers from 2 other teams winning races under different circumstances shows that Red Bull are far more reachable this season than last year. I mean, just look at how Norris was uncaged in the early phases of the race after no longer being held back by Sergio Perez in Miami. The car had scary pace, and Ferrari have consistently been far closer to Red Bull than they were this time last year. McLaren bought substantial upgrades, with Ferrari bringing less drastic measures to Miami, and ex-team owner Giancarlo Minardi feels that Red Bull is still down the road, but they may well be within reach of the trailing pack. McLaren made many updates that gave more than positive results. We are now waiting for Ferrari's response. In Miami, they already introduced some updates with positive results in anticipation of the important package expected at Imola. Red Bull remains the car of reference, even if it seems to have lost the peace of mind that constantly distinguished them in recent seasons due to the well-known internal issues. Verstappen, author of the double pole position, the win in the sprint race and 2nd place in the main race, remains the fixed point. I think that the Dutchman wanted to satisfy, but without taking excessive risks. The Ferrari upgrades have been of particular interest this week, with what has been rumoured as a borderline B car being run on a filming day the week before Imola. The potency of the upgrades is being downplayed by some, claiming it's not a game changer, but a swing of a couple of tenths could really make all the difference in what is currently a very tight championship on the timing screens, even if it's less close in the championship standings. Minardi would go on to make a claim that caught us off guard. It's not Ferrari or McLaren that would make a shock jump up the grid and challenge Red Bull far more comprehensively, but according to Giancarlo Minardi, the best placed team to make a huge step in Imola is none other than Mercedes. Hey, don't get mad at us, it's Minardi that said it. According to the ex-team owner, the highly awaited team in Imola is certainly Mercedes. From what we hear, their championship could start right from the Enzo and Dino Ferrari circuit. With a 6th place despite a car that was not at the highest level in Miami, they showed that they did not win 7 world championships by chance, and could make others pay a high price. Again, we're just telling you what he said, because if you hear what members of the Brackley team are saying, it's far less optimistic. It seems, regardless of the upgrade's effectiveness in Miami, with the floor giving Mercedes a better platform to perform off of, it seems that all they've succeeded in doing is catching up to where McLaren and Ferrari were. The key word there is were, because McLaren have progressed massively from that point, and Ferrari are also looking set to do so as well, potentially leaving Mercedes at a net zero game from where they were when taking into account everyone else's progressions around them. While it did seem that Hamilton and Russell were far happier coming out of the weekend, it doesn't seem that they will be back fighting for podiums outside of freak circumstances, if trackside engineering director Andrew Chauvelin is to be believed, as he said, "Yes, it all looks like it's delivering the performance that we were hoping for from the floor. The issue at the moment is that everyone else is developing their cars. You saw McLaren with a big package and they look to have moved forwards." Also, the handling issues that the drivers are having to battle with are making it hard to really see all that performance as a straight step forward. What we tend to find is that the car from session to session can behave quite differently, and until we get on top of that, we are always going to blunt the benefits that we can get from these types of updates. However, he would go on to say that there is some hope that, once the better understood issues from Miami are handled, the team will move forward in a far more effective way and be able to benefit from the upcoming upgrades over the next 4 races. After the last few races, we've now got a very clear idea of what we need to do to the car to get it handling a bit more easily for the drivers, making sure it goes where they want it to when they are on those important qualifying laps. And we also have a good sort of thread of updates that will be coming over the next 3 or 4 races. However, even before the Miami Grand Prix, pundits like Ted Kravitz were claiming that only an advantage of a second per lap being gained would allow Mercedes to fall back in contention with the top teams, something which the Miami upgrades clearly didn't provide. So much as Minardi may think that we're suddenly going to see an incredibly tight 4-way race for the top spot, it appears that unless Mercedes pull another 6/10 out of their rear, then we aren't really going to see them on a podium anytime soon. It may still be that Ferrari post-filming day and McLaren post-Miami upgrades can provide a far greater challenge to Red Bull than the opening rounds, and we certainly hope that Miami and Imola will be the weekends that truly kick off a championship battle, but catching Red Bull is one thing, beating Max Verstappen is another thing entirely. In other news, it seems that the team principals have taken a note out of Drake and Kendrick Lamar's books, as this week saw shots being fired across the paddock and the team principals took to airing out each other's dirty laundry, specifically surrounding the team personnel looking to leave their current teams and position themselves in what they deem to be a more preferable position. It all started with Zach Brown taking the opportunity to poke the bear following Adrian Newey's announcement, with the McLaren team principal insisting that it's not just Newey looking to depart the team. He's a very high-integrity individual. I'm not surprised he's moving on. The stuff that's going on there is a bit destabilizing. It's probably the first domino to fall. My guess is not the last based on the resumes that are flying around. We've seen an increase in CVs coming our way from the team, and I think Adrian is the most successful designer of all time. I think they will be missing what he brings to the team from a pure technical point of view, and then I think the leadership and the excitement that people will get from working with him will be missed. Which then prompted Toto Wolff to take the opportunity to get one up on his rival, with him claiming that plenty of people currently at Red Bull who are looking to move on, including some senior personnel, have sent their CVs to Mercedes, with him saying, "Zach is absolutely correct. We are seeing Red Bull CVs through all levels." However, he would qualify that this is nothing out of the ordinary and that people moving from team to team is no big deal. Horner disagreed. In fact, he went straight for the jugular by claiming, "You know, the two candidates involved, they talk a lot. I'm not going to get sucked into this tit for tat, but I'd be more focused on Toto's own issues that he has. I don't have any concern with the strength and depth. Of course, there is always going to be movement between teams. I don't know how many people we've employed from McLaren this year or how many people VCarb have employed. Mercedes, we've taken 220 people, 220, out of Mercedes' high-performance powertrains into Red Bull powertrains. So when we're talking about losing people, I would be more worried about the 220 than 1 or 2 CVs. While not exactly a major revelation that these guys are at each other's throats, perhaps the exchange indicates just how chaotic behind the scenes of F1 is at the moment, with people looking to secure the best positions possible before the 2026 regulation change.